For me, I don't know whether it was clouds or maybe I was just so dreaming of that peak.
Yeah.
I wasn't even looking at the ground.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, I'm gonna get there. Like I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna stop now because I'm so excited about like where this is going that I was able to really put in the hard hours of researching things that I knew nothing about and trying to become a subject matter expert in as much as I could about this thing.
Wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you walk and your talk is constant.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Death to Vanilla podcast. Super excited to have Ryan Shindler here. He has some unique stuff, and you know the show, Death to Vanilla. This is showcasing people doing unique things, differentiators, that I think you have something really unique and exciting. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're working on, which we have here unsurprisingly in the background, right?
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. So basically my story is, I'm an architect. I went to ASU, got my bachelor's in architecture, then went down to the University of Arizona, got my master's in architecture as well as a Master of Science in Architecture, and that focused on health and the built environment. And so that's all about, how does the environment, specifically architecture, impact your health and well-being? And so that really was something I've always been passionate about. And then, I was working in the industry for a little bit, for a while, and I basically said, hey, it was 2020, and I was like, I would love to work from anywhere. Why can't I work like out in nature and still have technology and still have my laptop and all the connected things that I need, but yet how would I build that as an architect, and kind of blow the doors off of other things that are out there. And so that's kind of how it came to be.
Right. So obviously it was like a personal need of yours, but what made you, what put you over the edge of this needs to be my next business venture?
That's a great question. I think that it was sort of a dream for a while, and then I just started to get kind of, I would say, a little frustrated with where the industry was going and who was listening to some of the avant-garde research and how there was so much coming out in terms of research studies on daylight and acoustics and material science, and it just wasn't, I didn't see a lot of opportunity to apply it in sort of traditional channels of different architecture firms that I worked at, different clients that I had. It just, people weren't getting it. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm going to take this dream I have of a off-the-grid workspace for myself and use it as sort of almost like a mobile showpiece of what I think is possible with architecture. And that's kind of how, then I was like, let's kind of talk to my brother and join forces with him. And, we said, let's make a business out of this.
I love that story. I think the best ideas are often spurred by our own needs, right? I forget, there's a business called Brand Builders, and it's within a personal brand context, but they always talk about you're in the most powerful position to help who you used to be, right? And I feel like this is kind of the similar situation where it's this was your itch, and you're hey, if I'm gonna actually go to all this trouble, I might as well just do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Go all in.
Exactly, and you bring up a great point. I did this really for me first.
Yeah.
Because I saw a version of myself in the pandemic who, I wanted to, it was 120 degrees in Phoenix in 2020, and I was like, I got to get up to Flagstaff. Well, it was almost impossible to find an Airbnb or really anything, a hotel. I mean, everybody wanted to go up there and escape the heat. And so that's what was well, what if I just build something for myself? And then it ultimately was this thing, to your point, is how would I serve that version of myself? And that's where, with this, I wanted to create something for another me out there, that doesn't want to have to worry about towing something, doesn't want to have to worry about logistics. Just, it's already set up at a spot, and you can book it, similar to an Airbnb where it's, kind of a workplace stay and beyond, and anywhere you want while being connected, to everything. So, that's kind of, to your point, like, I'm excited to like share that now with other people.
For sure. Yeah, I ended up getting quarantined before it was hot. I think it's just like when everyone stopped going out in general, and like literally sitting on we have like a big old covered patio at our house, and like literally sitting outside saved my sanity, because it was like we have like a 1,300 square foot house, and it was like staying inside for like 2 full weeks because you got exposed to someone was just like the beginning of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so like this literally being outside in the fresh air was such a big deal, and had it been Flagstaff or something, Sedona maybe, that would have been even cooler. So that's really neat. So obviously, like, the podcast is all about differentiation and stuff like that. So, and you and I have talked a little bit about it. What is, like, I go out on with my trailer, with my pop-up, and go out into the wilderness, right? Their Airbnbs already exist. So walk us through a little bit about, like, what the environment created here is different than what people have already accessible to them.
Yeah, so to that point, I would say that, first of all, in the design, I started with basically the desk and worked outward from that. And I said, I always dreamed as an architect, like, of having, the ultimate kind of workspace. And then I was like, well, wait, if it's in nature, let's really just create something all around the desk, starting with, what is your view to the left, to the right? What is your sense of prospect and refuge? Do you have protection, but yet, protection from the elements, but yet do you feel that sense of those sweeping vistas beyond, like that kind of balance? And then, what is your view? The biggest thing that I'm proud of here is, what is your view beyond the monitor screen, right? And you can open up the entire rear door system to have this panoramic view out. And so I would say the number one differentiator is that for the first time ever, and even in a building or a RV or anything, it's all about the desk, and everything else is ancillary to that.
Yeah.
And so, it does have a full-size bed, a second pull-out full-size bed as well, toilet, separate shower, kitchenette. But all of that is really ancillary to supporting you being sort of taken to another place with your work, play. Maybe you're a video gamer, maybe you're a remote worker, maybe you're a creative, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're a musician. Like, I believe that, the desk is where we spend a lot of our time, and let's make that better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and when you and I had first connected, with being a fairly avid RVer, granted I'm in a pop-up, but like the table situation in RV can be nice, but it's definitely like not designed to sit there for 8 hours doing your best work. It's certainly, after your meal you're just like praying to get out of that seat. It's like touching your legs and whatever else. And so, it's definitely not meant to be a place that you want to be working for a long period of time. So I love that. I think that's huge to be able to have a combination of all your experience in architecture and how that helps you work better, combined with, quite frankly, some beautiful views that we have
in this state,
in parts of Arizona,
right? Like, and that was the other thing is I'm so fortunate to live in this place where, you're 2 hours away from a vastly different landscape, and they all are amazing. I mean, whether you want to go from the bottom of the desert floor to a 7,200 feet mountain elevation with pine trees, that's kind of what I envisioned. This thing is sort of like, it could sit in Phoenix in the winter, and it could be up in Flagstaff in the summer, but you get a totally new experience. Like, forget wallpaper. It's like, how about the view is your, differentiation?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's with it being mobile, that's amazing that it's able to be, adjusted for that special time of year, right? Because places, especially areas like the Superstition Mountains, are gorgeous.
Yeah.
they're not gorgeous in the summer. Let me tell you. Like, even if you look at them from outside your window while you're roasting in your car, like, that's one thing. But like, you're not gonna like want to go camping there.
Right.
So certainly, seasonality is huge. Now, obviously, like you guys are, kicking off and whatever else. Maybe you don't have an answer for this right now. As far as like what has been good for you guys for a sales perspective. If that is not currently viable, what would you say has been the best thing for you to gain exposure?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, like, for me, we've been super fortunate to be here at Cul-de-sac Tempe. This has kind of been our launch playground, our launch pad, and I couldn't think of a better place in the world, frankly, to have this. It's personally in my backyard. I live in Tempe, and basically, if you haven't heard about Cul-de-sac, definitely look it up. It's a very forward-thinking place to live, and I think that the community here is really special, and so it's really, I guess, getting this thing in places where people are sort of, I don't want to say thirsty, but interested in new concepts, new ideas. I think that's kind of our number one kind of starting point, and then kind of taking it, see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle choice, right? Like the whole thing with Cul-de-sac is that you're at a place where like pretty much everything you need is within walking distance. It's kind of like this, I forget what their exact phrase is, but it's like a carless community. Obviously they have a parking lot because people need to go other places, but everything you need is pretty much right here. It's walkable. It's got a little sweet Mediterranean vibe, but that makes sense because the people who are choosing your Airbnb trailer remote work masterpiece is looking for a different kind of lifestyle. Some people enjoy the high rise. Some people enjoy looking at leaves change while they're working.
Well, and I believe that, it's all about like a variety. Like, sometimes maybe you do want to be immersed in the city. Sometimes you want to be totally out in nature, and I think that I'm just really excited to sort of offer another option for people, to spend time.
For sure. When you like look at this process that you've had over the last 2 years building this, what would you say is like your biggest lesson that you learned? And it doesn't have to be like just like anything. It could be something about you personally that you learned in the process of doing all this and the challenges that come with it, or maybe it was business acumen that you got. What would you say was like your biggest takeaway that you learned this last 2 years?
Wow. I would probably say something in the realm of, you really start to learn a lot about yourself when you sort of have to really push yourself beyond your comfort zone. And so in order to complete this, it was all about pushing myself out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I'm an architect. I have a degree in research as well, as I mentioned, but I didn't know anything about solar or plumbing or electrical. I mean, they teach you some basics in architecture school, but nothing to the level of what you need to know to build something like this without, hiring other people to sort of teach you or consult you. We didn't have the resources to do that. And frankly, I wanted to do it myself. And I'm glad I did now because, I'm able to make better decisions because I fully understand, what is, a kilowatt.
Yeah.
What is, what makes a kilowatt? What is the exact, rake you have to have for your plumbing in order to drain properly? And because I did that, I was able to really get into every nook and cranny of this thing and sort of become this super architect, if you will, I was architecting, the undercarriage of the chassis to the, superstructure of the roof and everything in between. And I think that for me personally, it's so much more special to me because of that.
Yeah.
And I think that I guess to answer your question, it taught me a lot about myself, and I'm thankful for that.
Obviously, when you're in business, you're learning a ton of things, right? You probably were, I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm sure you were shocked at the amount of regulations there are on things. But yeah, it is, when you're building something for yourself, it's so challenging and you have to have so much grit and you have to want it really bad.
Yeah.
And all that does indeed push you way past where you're normally at, make you learn things you never thought you were gonna have to learn.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I always tell people, like, if I'd known what I needed to learn to run a business before I started, I just wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you like look, it's like climbing up a mountain. You're like, oh man, I got to go up 5,000 feet. I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Thankfully, you know, I didn't know any better. I didn't know how tall the mountain was. It was hidden by a cloud. So I was like, oh, that's not that far.
Yeah,
you get past the cloud and you're like, oh, actually, it's way further.
Yeah. And I think, you know, to speak to that, it's like, similar to what you said, for me, I don't know whether it was clouds or maybe I was just so dreaming of that peak.
Yeah.
I wasn't even looking at the ground.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, I'm gonna get there. Like I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna stop now because I'm so excited about like where this is going that I was able to really put in the hard hours of researching things that I knew nothing about and trying to become a subject matter expert in as much as I could about this thing. And so it totally it was a journey for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Well, sweet. Well, we are going to take a quick look inside. I'm going to follow Ryan around with my phone, and we're going to show off little pieces of the interior. So check it out.
Come on with me, and let's check out the Bluecraft.
Hi there, Steven here, the host of the Death and Vanilla podcast, and I wanted to take a second to step away from our conversation and tell you a little bit about our sponsor, and unsurprisingly, my own company, Burkhart Creative Agency. A lot of business owners pride themselves in their word-of-mouth growth, and while that is a powerful marketing tool, the businesses that we work with are looking to scale, and they can't afford to wait for someone to tell their next-door neighbor about their company and hope that one day that might become a client. Why would you put the future of your company's growth in a process that you have no control over? Businesses that are looking to scale are looking to increase their volume of customers in their existing market and or expand into other verticals but have limited resources, time, and skills to do it. Bringing in an in-house team is expensive, it takes a lot of time, and they still not be able to strategically execute to get your company in front of the right people. Burkhart Creative Agency provides information that business owners like you can use to make data-driven decisions through a combination of market research, statistics, and a deep understanding of your business so that the marketing videos created are the most effective for moving a business towards its revenue goals. All of this resting on over a decade of video production experience. If you want to move forward this year with confidence, knowing that you have a plan, that you're in control of where your business is heading, and you have the videos that can make that happen, schedule a time. There's a link below. Click on it. Schedule a time with me. We have a no pressure phone call where we just see if we're a good fit, to see if we want to move forward or not. Let's get back to the show.
So one of the first coolest features of this thing is the fact that we've got this 90-degree corner that completely folds away. So completely column free to offer these wide angle views of nature. And this whole rear door system can fold off to the side completely. And so you've really got, beyond the monitor screen, this view out into whatever, landscape you're in. And so we also have the Herman Miller Mira chair, which is one of my favorites. Super adaptable, super comfortable. It's all about making yourself at home in this space, and everything is designed around the desk, kind of as I mentioned. So, we've got a power height adjustable desk, sit stand, but specifically what's really important is you can dial this thing in exactly how you want. Things that are important, some basics of ergonomics, like having your elbows at 90 degrees and your wrists comfortable on the desk. And we've got this beveled edge of our height adjustable desk that makes it super comfortable for typing. Apple Studio Display with nano texture glass to mitigate glare. And everything, as I mentioned, is sort of here to support you as you're working. And we've got operable windows, and everything that is around you is super adaptable. So we could say things like, hey Google, close the translucent right shade.
All All right, closing the translucent right shade.
And so, we've got 2 levels of shading on all the main windows, the left, right, and rear. This is our translucent shade, so it's semi-opaque, but it allows, let's say you're getting natural, glare from the sun, but you still want to have your view out. You can ask for the translucent shade, which will allow you to have that, and without getting up from your desk, so you can continue, working, playing, creating, without really missing a beat. Some of the other really cool features are really this whole floor plate is just all about modularity and adaptability. And so, for example, we can move these poofs out of the way, and we can move this desk into the wall. And we've got our full-size bed, but also we've got an additional stowable full-size mattress underneath for additional guests. So what we're really trying to create is like a much more open feeling, but also, this sort of, high level of adaptability and flexibility. We've obviously got our kitchenette. It has an induction cooktop, microwave, refrigerator, and one of the nice things is, we really have been intentional about storage, like having enough, but all of the essentials, but not kind of overwhelming with, too much, closet space storage. It's all about sort of what you need for kind of the essence of being off the grid. Then to kind of show some of the other features in terms of, the adaptability to changing conditions, we can say things like, hey Google, turn on all the lights.
Okay, turning 5 lights on.
Hey Google, set the lights to blue.
Got it. Changing 7 lights to blue.
So, this is all about, throughout the day and as the sun sets, you can really adapt this thing to create sort of a special bespoke experience at any time of the day. We've got things like, hey Google, party. So, I've set some custom scenes and routines, again, to sort of, create this sort of special atmosphere at different times of the day. Other things you can do, we've got 2 power adjustable skylights. And so over the bed, you can see, I intentionally designed right above the pillows, your direct view up is to the stars at night. And so, we could say things like, hey Google, close the skylight shades.
Sure, closing 2 blinds.
So you'll see it here in a second. And basically, we can set, custom scenes and routines, and basically, if you want to be woken up by, a natural sunrise, you can do that. So how could you not do your best work with a view of a mountainscape or the ocean just beyond? Right now we're in the city, but even that, no matter where you're at, I really look forward to people experiencing what it's like to have just an immersive view and a special experience around you with the architecture to help catalyze and catapult your day into a better experience. So now that you've seen kind of the most exciting part of this, I want to talk a little bit about the exterior design. And this obviously was a very special project to me. Really was an opportunity for me to share and make sort of a statement how I feel about my personal vision of the future of architecture. And, really it's all about this opportunity that I had to sort of create a towable piece of architecture and, sort of the future on 4 wheels and a chassis. And so, as a kid, I loved cars. I still love cars. I'll always love cars, and I always love architecture. And I was never sure whether I wanted to be a car designer or an architect. I ultimately chose being an architect, but this opportunity was really exciting because it brought me back, into sort of a marriage between car design and architecture that I never thought was possible. So, I sort of started with the most minimal size trailer chassis that I could to fit all of the functionality that you've sort of seen in the most minimal towable package, something that you could tow on a canyon, back road comfortably. And so I landed on a 16-foot chassis and sort of built up from that. And what ended up happening was, I said, like, I want to create sort of a sports car work experience. I want to create the sports car of architecture and work. And so that was sort of the ethos and theme of this thing. And, just using a lot of forward-thinking materials and how we created our wall assemblies was a really exciting opportunity. And so generally, it's just all about, working with the proportions of, again, the 16-foot long chassis, where the wheels sit naturally through, the engineering, where they're balanced for weight. And one of the sort of exciting pieces that came together was this brake line in what I call the top shroud, which sort of hides our skylights and the solar and the Starlink and the AC. This brake line where the mirror meets the stainless steel is not only at the center line of this top slot clerestory window, but it's also the center line, if you draw an imaginary line all the way down to the center of the two wheels. And one of my favorite design features is, ever since the beginning of the Porsche 911, the fly line in the C-pillar, the rear section, if you draw an imaginary line, comes right down to the center of the rear wheel. And so this is sort of a nod to proportions and talking about how architecture can sort of start working more with, engineering and the mediums that we inhabit, and how, what is the experience to sort of walk by this thing and feel that almost sense of motion a little bit.
Well, thank you for showing us the inside. It was gorgeous, amazing, and I'll tell you what, it makes remote work look even more attractive than I had originally anticipated. I certainly love being outside, and it makes me happy. Being happy sure makes some good work. So, yes. So, thank you for showing us. Thank you for being a guest. Where can someone actually get a hold of you and find out more about Bluecraft, connect with you, and book this unit?
Absolutely. So I would say, check out our website, bluecraft.space. And then you can find me personally on LinkedIn, searching Ryan Shindler. We're looking forward to sharing it out, getting it out there.
Yeah, for sure. Click on the QR code that's in the video as well. We'll have a link in the description so you can check it out. Make it easy for you, right? So thank you for watching.
Thanks.
Wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you're walking your talk is constant.